Welcome to Book Summary Lessons. In today's episode, we're diving deep into one of the most thought-provoking books on happiness and personal growth, The Courage to be Disliked, co-authored by Japanese philosopher Ichiro Kishimi and psychologist Fumitake Koga. This book presents a radically different perspective on happiness and personal freedom, arguing that the root cause of most of our suffering is the excessive concern we place on others' opinions. By adopting the courage to be disliked, the author suggests that we can break free from this cycle and live a life of true happiness. So let's explore the key teachings from this book that will help you achieve greater fulfillment and peace of mind. The root of our unhappiness. According to Kishimi and Koga, the primary cause of many of life's problems is our overwhelming concern about how others perceive us. They suggest that this constant worry about gaining approval from those around us is what leads to unhappiness. The authors argue that this concern for other people's opinions is not something that arises from within us, but is instead intrinsically linked to the outside world. Essentially, they state that there is no such thing as internal worry that is entirely defined by the individual. Whatever concerns or anxiety we experience, the shadows of other people's judgments are always present. This means that when we are worrying about something, it's often because we are concerned about how others will perceive our actions or decisions. The courage to be disliked, a path to freedom. The central idea of the courage to be disliked is that all of life's problems are far simpler than they appear. The authors argue that our lives only seem complicated because we make them so. They offer a refreshing perspective. If we were to let go of the need for approval, we would free ourselves from the chains of worry and self-doubt, which often trap us in cycles of unhappiness. They claim that the only thing you truly need to find happiness is to develop the courage to be disliked. This is not about being rude or inconsiderate to others. Rather, it's about accepting that no matter what you do, there will always be people who won't like you. Once you accept this truth, you are free to live life authentically, without the burden of trying to please everyone. Freedom from validation. How seeking approval limits us. Living with the constant desire for approval from others is often what causes the greatest distress. It's not that people lack confidence. Rather, they lack the courage to live according to their own values and beliefs. The authors assert that in order to live freely, we must not fear being disliked. This is not about being indifferent to others, but about not being ruled by their judgments. The problem arises when we start to measure our worth based on the opinions of others. Kishimi and Koga explain that when we seek approval from others, we inadvertently give up our personal freedom. We start to live according to the standards and expectations set by others, rather than by our own desires and principles. This ultimately leads to feelings of frustration, as we are constantly trying to live up to external expectations, which are often unrealistic or unachievable. The need for validation becomes a trap, and it limits our ability to experience genuine happiness. The key to happiness, acceptance and courage. In contrast, the key to happiness, according to the authors, lies in the courage to live without the need for validation. When we have the courage to be disliked, our relationships with others become lighter and more authentic. We no longer feel the weight of trying to meet others' expectations, and we begin to focus more on living a life that aligns with our true desires and values. To understand this concept more deeply, let's explore the philosophical foundation of this book, which is based on the ideas of Alfred Adler, a pioneering psychologist who developed a theory known as individual psychology. Adler's influence, the unified self. Alfred Adler's theories form the backbone of Kishimi and Koga's approach to happiness. Adler believed that the self is a unified whole. This means that all aspects of who we are, the body, the mind, our emotions, and both conscious and unconscious thoughts, work together toward a common goal. This perspective is fundamental to understanding the author's views on happiness because it suggests that every thought, action, and feeling we experience is not random or disconnected. Instead, they all work together to help us achieve a goal, whether we're aware of it or not. Kishimi and Koga build on this idea by emphasizing that our goals shape our sense of self. According to them, the goals we pursue influence everything about us, from the way we feel to how we behave. If we are constantly focused on gaining approval from others, for instance, this will shape our emotions, thoughts, and actions in ways that align with this goal. Conversely, if we set a goal of living authentically and contributing to others for well-being, we will experience life very differently. This leads us to the concept of lifestyle in Adlerian psychology. Adler believed that a person's lifestyle is the result of the goals they set and the choices they make in order to achieve those goals. The habits, emotions, and thoughts we adopt in life are not fixed or determined by our personality traits, but are instead a reflection of the goals we pursue. These goals are dynamic and can change at any time, allowing us the freedom to alter our lifestyle and ultimately our sense of self. The role of emotions, how we create our feelings. Kishimi and Koga also delve into the role of emotions in the process of goal setting. According to them, our emotions are not independent of our goals. In fact, they argue that we create our emotions in service of achieving the goals we have set for ourselves. For example, if someone wants a particular job but feels anxiety about the interview, this anxiety is not a random feeling. It is a result of their goal to avoid the discomfort of potential failure. In this sense, emotions are not just reactions to external events. They are deeply connected to the goals we are trying to achieve. If someone becomes anxious before a job interview, it's because their true goal may not be to get the job, but to avoid the potential failure or rejection that comes with the interview process. By allowing themselves to experience fear, they are effectively avoiding the risk of rejection and protecting themselves from discomfort. This idea extends to how we perceive our past experiences, including trauma. Many people believe that their past traumas dictate their current behavior and emotions. Kishimi and Koga challenge this belief by arguing that trauma doesn't inherently define our future. Instead, they suggest that it is up to us to decide how to interpret and respond to our past experiences. Our emotions and behaviors are not dictated by our past, they are shaped by the meaning we assign to those experiences. The myth of trauma, taking control of our lives. The authors emphasize that no experience in itself determines our success or failure. It's not the trauma or negative experiences that shape us, rather, it is the meaning we give to those experiences. The authors argue that by changing the way we interpret and respond to our past, we can free ourselves from the burden of trauma. While our past experiences may have influenced our current goals and habits, Kishimi and Koga stress that we always have the power to change. Our past does not define us. We define ourselves through the goals we set and the choices we make in the present. No matter what has happened to us in the past, it should not have any bearing on how we choose to live from this moment onward. Unhappiness as a strategy. The role of goals in emotional pain. So why do some people choose unhappiness? Kishimi and Koga argue that unhappiness is often a strategy used to achieve certain goals, particularly when it comes to relationships. Unhappy people frequently make the approval of others their primary goal, believing that happiness can only be attained by being liked and accepted. However, this goal is often unattainable because approval from others is unpredictable and out of our control. When people realize that gaining approval is difficult or impossible, they may react by giving up altogether. Rather than continuing to chase approval, they stop trying and adopt a new goal, convincing themselves that something is inherently wrong with them. This belief that they are flawed serves as a justification for why others don't approve of them. By embracing this self-limiting belief, they avoid the emotional pain of continued failure and rejection. However, this belief only deepens their unhappiness. By giving up on trying to gain approval, they remain emotionally attached to the goal of approval, and their failure to achieve it only reinforces their sense of inadequacy. The zero-sum game. How seeking approval prevents healthy relationships. One of the key insights in The Courage to be Disliked is how seeking approval leads to unhealthy relationships. Unhappy people often view life as a competition. If someone else succeeds, they feel that they have failed. This creates a zero-sum game, where someone else's success diminishes their own sense of worth. In this way, seeking approval leads to constant comparison, resentment, and competition with others. The authors argue that once you break free from this mindset and stop seeking approval, your relationships become much healthier. You no longer see others as rivals, but as people with their own goals and aspirations. The need to triumph over others disappears, and instead, you focus on contributing to others' well-being. The shift from sacrifice to contribution. Kishimi and Koga also explore the idea that many unhappy people view relationships as a form of sacrifice. They feel entitled to something in return for their actions. For instance, someone might organize a surprise birthday party for a friend and expect the same treatment in return. If the friend doesn't reciprocate, the person organizing the party may feel resentful. This expectation of reciprocation stems from a desire for approval. The authors argue that healthy relationships are built on genuine contributions rather than expectations of what we will receive in return. Happy people, they suggest, find fulfillment in helping others because it makes them feel useful, not because they expect recognition. The path to happiness, contribution, and self-acceptance. So, what is the alternative to seeking approval? Kishimi and Koga suggest that instead of focusing on approval, we should focus on contributing to the well-being of others. When we genuinely believe that we are making a positive impact on others, we no longer need external validation. This shift from seeking recognition to finding fulfillment in contribution is one of the core lessons in The Courage to Be Disliked. Helping others isn't about self-sacrifice or being selfless. It's about finding joy in the act of contributing. Happy people help others because it brings them joy, not because it's the right thing to do. This is a much stronger motivator than simply doing something to gain approval or recognition. The value of self-acceptance in the present moment. Another important lesson from the book is the value of self-acceptance. Happy people believe in their inherent worth, regardless of their achievements or failures. They understand that their presence has value, even if they haven't done anything extraordinary. This self-acceptance allows them to embrace their imperfections and to see their value as human beings. Kishimi and Koga also emphasize the importance of living in the present moment. Happiness is not something that can be achieved through future success or accomplishments. It comes from recognizing the positive impact we have on others right now. Enjoying life as it is, without constantly striving for some distant goal, is a key element of happiness. Conclusion: the courage to live authentically. The key takeaway from The Courage to Be Disliked is that seeking approval from others is a dead-end path. It creates unnecessary stress, limits personal freedom, and prevents us from experiencing genuine happiness. The only way to achieve lasting happiness is to accept that not everyone will like you, and to have the courage to live a life that is true to your values and beliefs, regardless of others' opinions. Thank you for joining us today on Book Summary Lessons. We hope this deep dive into The Courage to Be Disliked has inspired you to embrace the courage to live authentically and to let go of the need for approval. Remember, happiness starts with accepting yourself and living on your own terms. Be sure to subscribe for more insightful book summaries and life-changing lessons.